Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about the infamous Albert Pike and his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. It's very well known in the conspiracy theory community, but I have not seen it being analyzed nearly as much as it should have been. And considering recent events with the Charlie Kirk assassination and other things, but particularly the Charlie Kirk issue, I thought it very pertinent to actually analyze this in regards to the wider situation we found ourselves in the world and in the West in particular. It's been a long-range plan that these people, generally known as the Cabal, capital C, but Cabal is far too simplistic a name, a title for them, but that's what people usually call them in the past several years, me as well. So let's get into who Albert Pike was. So Albert Pike, born in 1809, died 1891, was a lawyer, a Confederate general, among other things, and a celebrated 33rd degree Freemason. He was actually the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rites Southern Jurisdiction of Freemasonry from 1859 till his death. He's most famous for writing the Masonic magnum opus Morals and Dogma. It actually has a longer title, but that's the shortened version of the book's title, published in 1871. The book describes the degrees. It's got 32 chapters, so it describes the 32 degrees of the Scottish Rite in great detail, but without revealing the Masonic secrets. Interestingly, I can't have that because it's going to interfere with the mic. Okay, so he's also notorious among conspiracy theorists, as I said at the start, for apparently having written a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, the Grand Master of the Grand Orient of Italy at the time, though this has been disputed, but I believe he was, because so many other things that are denied by the Matrix or the Cabal, or call it what you will, okay? There are so many things that are denied that actually are real, that turn out being true later. The Matrix, the Grand Master of the Grand Orient of Italy, and in this letter, it outlines how the three world wars would be orchestrated. And mind you, this guy died in 1891, so they say that the letter was a hoax, but if it was, it's the most prophetic hoax of all time. So if it was a hoax, apparently written sometime in the 50s or something, it was cited as proof of a long-range communist plot. I don't remember what the book was. I'll look into it for subsequent videos, or perhaps if I find it, I'll put it underneath in the description box. If anyone knows, please inform me. Perhaps I think it was maybe William Guy Carr's book. None dare call it conspiracy. Maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. I will look into it and correct it if that's not the case when I publish the video. But if that was a hoax, if he just made that up just to lend credence to his anti-communist theories in the book, then how could he have known what Pike said to Mazzini about World War III, okay? Because at that point, only World Wars I and II had happened, if I'm understanding it correctly, if indeed the quote first appeared in that book that I mentioned before. So how could William Guy Carr had known what the Illumined Freemasons are planning, what they're planning to do in order to bring about World War III? The final war, which I call it the final war actually in my novels as well, which is you'll see there's a clip of it in the middle of every video, a trailer. So that's highly rated. It's got like 4.4, 4.4, 4.5 stars average on Amazon at the moment. So anyway, so if it was a hoax, I don't know how the man who wrote, who made up the hoax could have so perfectly captured the Illumined Freemasons, the Cabal's mindset and the way they engage in problem, reaction, solution, otherwise known as Ordo Out of Chaos, Ordo Ab Chao, which in itself, we'll get into a bit later in the video, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing, the Order Out of Chaos. It just simply, it means, other organizations and many other people have spoken about this, most famously Jordan Peterson, okay? It's not a bad thing to try to put order into chaos, okay? That's the masculine impulse, okay, of logic, of order, okay? But I'll discuss a bit later on why the Freemasons actually use that principle for nefarious ends, for their own goals, okay? So, yeah, they've gone to great lengths to prove the letter was a hoax, but it has to be the most prophetic hoax of all time, as I say here. For example, it states that, so in the first section, it talks about World War I, how they're going to accomplish that. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism, which is exactly what happened. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and the Germanic empires will be used to foment the war. We later discovered that this was indeed the case. Okay, there were surface reasons and surface conflicts that appeared to be the main reasons for the rise of communism, for the 1917 October Revolution and all this stuff where the Bolsheviks took control of Russia, and it became a nightmare for the next 70 years, roughly. But then we discover that there were, there's layers. There's always more layers to the thing. All the world's a stage, as Shakespeare correctly said, and we only see, we are outsiders. We're not part of the secret societies or anything like that, or the royal bloodlines, etc. So, and luckily we have the internet in the past 20 or 30 years, roughly. So, if we didn't have that, we would barely know any of this stuff. We would be left with, studying in libraries and stuff, or like trusting the testimonies of whistleblowers and, defectors of the Cabal. So, but still, with what little information we have, a lot of outsiders, regular people like me and others doing this kind of work on the internet, we've figured out that yes, there are always behind the scenes things going on, and it's much deeper. It's like an onion, or like the Russian dolls, the babushka dolls, where you uncover one layer and then there's another doll inside, and then there's another doll inside the second doll, and then there's a fourth doll inside the third one. It goes like that. So it takes decades, a lot of times, to discover the layers that just keep getting deeper. It's like a never-ending rabbit hole. So that was the basics of what he said for the First World War. And looking back, that's exactly what happened. Now, the last part of the letter, as I hinted at before, he talks about how World War III would happen, but there's a particular section, because I am, this letter to Mazzini is about how they're going to foment the three world wars, but there are other things, there are other little details, and in light of and because this video is directly connected to the Charlie Kirk one that I did, the other one that I did about Charlie Kirk being like the new 9/11, the new September 11 attack, okay, because that was a Cabal, like a global MK Ultra trauma-based mind control thing. Ritual, definitely. So 24 years later, they did the same thing with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and which was done. It wasn't done on September 11, but it was done on September 10th. So it's within that range. There's something about that September 11 date that nobody really knows. Like, I know there's been a million theories, and I have seen them, trust me, but none of the explanations I've seen, and I've looked at pretty much all of them that are available on the net, none of them satisfy me completely. Like, none of them really 100% explain what is the significance of the 9/11 date, whether it's purely numerological, astrological, both. I don't know. Okay, but for some reason they like doing it. They like using that date. So for some reason they probably could not manage to shoot him on the actual 11th, because maybe he wasn't speaking on that day or whatever. But they chose the next closest thing, which was the 10th. You know, it was within a 24-hour window of that energy that date has, for some unknown reason that they like using it. Okay, so that's why I'm going to focus on how the letter to Mazzini, Pike's letter to Mazzini, potentially fits in with what we're seeing now with Kirk assassination, because I don't think they made it look like it was a lone leftist nut, but you'll see why I think that's not the case. All right. So he says to Mazzini, Pike, that is, says to Giuseppe Mazzini, we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, i.e. cultural Marxism, wokeism, and so on. See, that's why I have this picture here. Woke is Marxism, basically. It's rebranded Marxism. It's like the Bolshevism 2.0. It's metastasized, like it's morphed into wokeism and all this bullshit. So it's the early 21st century version of roughly 100 years later, after the Russian Revolution, right? So they will unleash all these losers, these insane, hateful people, and we shall NPCs, we could call them as well. And we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Nice Greek coffee. Everywhere else in the world they call it Turkish coffee, but it's a funny thing. It's a funny bit of trivia. Here in Greece we call it Greek coffee. So I'm drinking Turkish coffee there. So then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity. I'm not sure how they'll pull this one off with Kirk's assassination, but I'm sure they have other ways to do this, to get people to turn away from Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, So without knowing where to render its adoration, his writing is a bit tiring, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. So keep an eye out in the near future of hints of this, articles, Cabal frontmen coming out in interviews in, popular talk shows and so on, saying things like, we should unite all the religions, and all religions are based on the same fundamental truths, which that is true, actually. Okay? But just the way they're going to present it, just let's look out for that, okay? This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So basically, to translate that, he's saying that this Masonic, this grand plan, this large-scale plan, decades and decades or centuries-long plan, revolves around destroying fake spirituality, i.e. organized religion. I'm not saying Christ was not real and the his message and the miracles even. I believe all that stuff. I didn't for a long time in my life, but it's a long story as to how I eventually understood that it was real. I've had personal experiences that prove it. But anyway, organized religion as a whole, I term it as fake spirituality. Okay, I even have a glossary in my novels, in my books, for that, both fiction and non-fiction books. All right, so destroy that and atheism. Okay, so it's destroying basically the two things that are against true spirituality, which is complete atheism or fake spirituality, organized religion, which is, it's not. Organized religion is like second-hand spirituality, okay? Because you're not going directly to the source. You're not connecting directly in a Gnostic fashion with the divine, okay? So I guess that was their whole idea, that they thought, all right, we're going to eliminate both these fake paths. Well, one of them is not a path at all, because atheism is so retarded. It's the most retarded ideology that's ever existed. That and communism, I guess. How dumb do you have to be? How retarded? I mean, I'm using the word in all its proper clinical meaning. Okay, there has to be something wrong with you. Like clinically, like medically wrong with your brain, with your entire makeup. Spiritually, psychologically, mentally, something's wrong with a person who cannot comprehend, just innately understand that there's something out there. Okay, anyway, I can be ranting against atheism all day, but in their view, because you've got to understand, all conspirators, all evil people, the bad guys, they never see themselves as being the bad guy. Understand? So they're thinking, okay, we're going to finally, because the masses run on emotion mostly, and they don't really know what they're doing. They don't know what's good for them. So we, the shepherds, need to eventually convince them through using, is it here? Yeah, order out of chaos. I'll get into it in a second. Through using the order out of chaos to our advantage, to humanity's advantage in their view, because they think they're helping. Because, the masses, the bottom 95%, don't really know what's good for them. So the top 5%ers, the philosopher kings, let's say, they're the only ones equipped to rule mankind. So they're like, okay, these people don't really know. They don't have a fucking clue. So we will eventually steer them in the right direction. But in order to get there faster than we would have otherwise, we need to kind of engineer it and push it along through crises, like manufacture crises that will speed the thing along. So what they're doing is they're hijacking the order out of chaos principle that exists in nature. I mean, it's part of reality, that when there's chaos, like when a system breaks down, it's either going to die or it's going to reorganize itself at a higher level, whether it's a person or a country or business, an animal, anything in existence you can think of in the 3D universe. There's only two options to take when something breaks down, okay, when it quote-unquote dies. Like when a business is breaking down, it's either, when a business is not doing well. It's either going to completely, it's going to declare bankruptcy eventually, or it's going to figure out a way to get out of the crises, and it's going to emerge stronger. So it applies for a human being. When you go through a difficult period. There's people that they never recover, or they even unalive themselves in extreme cases, or they step up, they become stronger, and they file it away as experience, and then they just, they keep going from strength to strength, and it makes them stronger. It's that phrase we often use, like builds character. Okay, so that's what order out of chaos is. Okay, like if there's a chaotic situation and you put order into it, it's always going to be an improvement upon the previous order. Okay, it's like, I'm into lifting weights. It's one of my things, one of my hobbies, let's say. As many of you would know, when the muscle fiber breaks down, if you rest properly and eat properly, it's going to grow back stronger. Okay, so that's order out of chaos in action. Okay, so the previous order, which was your bicep was slightly smaller, you do the various bicep exercises, you rest and eat properly, and whatever else you need to do for maximum muscle growth, then the muscle fibers grow back and they're bigger than they were in the previous order, i.e. in the previous version of that particular muscle group, right? So we're hijacking, as fitness enthusiasts, as bodybuilders, we're hijacking that principle of nature, of natural law, order out of chaos, knowing how it works. We're like, okay, let's create some chaos on a regular basis to a particular muscle group, 2 or 3 times a week or whatever the case. And we know that if done right, we're going to create a new order. So you build a new body. For it to happen naturally, maybe it would have never happened, or, organically, like someone, how there's people that whether it's someone personally or some famous figure or whatever, that they're known for always looking fit without ever really exercising, not really having a workout regimen. And they're like, how do they do that? And they say in interviews or whatever, they say, oh, well, I was just naturally always like this, or whatever. Like, there's very few people that are like that. But for it to happen organically like that, the person has to be 1 in a million, or either that, or it takes years, and it's just a very rare thing. That's not really going to happen organically. That's why it's the people that do that are very exceptions to the rule, right? So the Cabal, these individuals that call the Cabal, don't know who they are. Whatever I say, illumined Freemasons. I'm not against Freemasonry as an ideology. Like, if you read some of the stuff, it's not bad. Okay, it's just basically along the same lines of theosophy, Rosicrucianism, and stuff like that, which are not evil, but it's just knowledge. Okay, it's neither good or bad. All right, it's neutral. But this specific thing, order out of chaos, they use it because they know that that's how the universe works. They use it to their advantage, like I described with bodybuilding thing, right? You can use it with anything, okay? Emotionally, if somebody goes through a lot of trials and tribulations in their life, if they come out the other end without self-destructing somehow, or without giving up on life, they emerge stronger. So that's order out of chaos. The order that's going to come out of a chaos, out of a crisis situation, let's call it, is always going to be superior and of a higher order, a higher level order than it was previously. All right. So basically, what they do this in order they mimic the way nature functions, in order to get to a desired result faster. So they think, well, we're doing it because we're going to make mankind become spiritualized, like it says here. Eventually understand that both fake religion and atheism are BS, and they're not a proper path to true spirituality. But because the muggles are so dumb, by the time they realize it themselves, it's going to take too long. So we're going to prod them along by creating managed, crisis situations that we create behind the scenes. But ultimately, it's for their greater good. We do it for their own good. So this is what creates a problem of these people, this cabal, thinking that they're doing it for the good. And then the masses, when we get wind of it, when we wake up to the manipulation, we're like, what the hell's going on here? But they insist that they're doing it for the good. So that's why there's always this clash of the elites, the cabal, versus the people, like with organizations like World Economic Forum and on and on. They will insist to their dying breath. They'll never stop believing and insisting that they're doing it for the greater good, okay? And many other organizations like that. All right, so now to break down the Order of Chaos thing in detail, as far as this particular situation goes that we're discussing with the wokeism and everything. All right, so I'm breaking it down in terms of problem, reaction, solution, which was a term popularized by David Icke initially, but it's basically a reworking of the order out of chaos thing that I described at length before. So, the problem. Unleash the nihilists and the atheists, i.e. wokeism, etc., neo-Marxism, wokeism, which will show the nations the effect of absolute atheism, etc. And we're seeing this now. I mean, look at the people, the way this fits with the Charlie Kirk thing, is that you look at the response, the reaction all around the world in countries that are not necessarily, they're kind of allied with the West, like South Korea, but they're not necessarily Western. They're technically not. But, nevertheless, people are out on the streets, lighting candles, vigils, and so on, putting up Charlie Kirk pictures and chanting, "We are Charlie Kirk, we are Charlie Kirk," all around the world. So, unleashing the nihilists and the atheists, i.e. wokeism, this has been, about a decade now that this has been happening, slowly, and it's just been ramping up, and it reached its end point of some crazy leftist shooting the guy in the neck for just being a proponent of free speech and speaking on campuses, okay? Dialogue. You're shooting someone because they're engaging in dialogue. Imagine. So this now is showing the nations the effect of absolute atheism, etc. Because understand that compared to the right, the left is more atheist. Not all of them, but it's much more atheist percentage-wise than the right, typically. And communism and all this stuff is very much rooted in atheism. Okay, it's an atheistic ideology, fundamentally. So, because all of this crap stems from, it's like different branches of the tree of communism, basically. It all has like an atheist underpinning, right? So the nihilists and the atheists. So they've done this, and the world now is turning against this thing. So that's the problem aspect. So if we are, okay, maybe it's not true, but let's pretend for a moment, humor me, and pretend for a moment that the letter to Mazzini is true, it's not a hoax, that indeed there's been a plot for centuries, like the Illumined Freemasons, they got together like in the late 1800s and thought, okay, we've got to get rid of the czars, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And in order to do so, we need to orchestrate 3 world wars. All right. So let's just pretend for a minute, even if don't think whether it is or isn't, just pretend. Let's just play a game, okay? That it's true, and therefore this is also true. What I'm showing here on this page. So if we go with that, then they create this problem. If we are to believe that there's this group of ultra, secretive, rich people, very smart, educated people that a lot of them maybe come from royal bloodlines and so on, that whose names we don't even know. And they're behind the scenes controlling and organizing these events. I mean, picture them as like sitting on a gigantic table in an enormous mansion, right? And they have like a map of the world on this giant table, and they have little pawns, like little soldiers or whatever, placed on various points on the map, and they're looking basically at the planet like as a gigantic board game, like a giant Monopoly game or something, and they're just saying, okay, we're going to do this, we want to do that, we want to bring down that government, we want to bring down Russia, going back to the World War I example, as to how we're going to break the power of the Tsars, which was the communist uprising in Russia, accomplished that. And they're looking, because they're so powerful and so influential, they've got all the money in the world, they are so far removed from the average human being that they see us as cattle, so they see us as pawns, like you would see in a chess game, the pawns disposable, okay? So, and they're looking at the planet as like this giant board game / chessboard, and they're playing around with people, like with the lives of millions of people, and with governments and this and that, pitting ideologies and countries against each other and so on. And they don't really care, because they're so far removed from the average person, okay, in their ivory towers. And because it's generational, probably, like I said before, a lot of them are probably from families that go back to hundreds, thousands of years even, to royal bloodlines, historically known royal bloodlines that controlled large portions of the planet. Can you imagine coming from such a DNA? Okay, what they would instill in you, how you would be brought up, you would see the world as, I'm a demigod, and everyone else is beneath me, and they're nothing, and they're like cattle, no different to animals, basically. So that's why they behave like this. So I'm giving you as much as I can, like I don't know, a piece of these people's mind, like to show you as much as I can as an outsider, but I've understood a lot about how these people think from my, I'll round it off to 30 years. It's not exactly 30 years, but it was about 20 when I woke up. We didn't have the internet back then, but I was doing it through books and stuff initially. I'm turning 50 soon in October 2025, so born in 75. So 30 years almost I've been looking into this, and I've come to understand quite well, if I may say so myself, how these people think, okay, that without being one of them. Perhaps I have like distant bloodline connection. A lot of us would, there seems to be a particular type of person that, there's a percentage of people that seem to understand how the Cabal operates and thinks better than others. And those of us who are in that category end up becoming the conspiracy theorists of the world, and, the Alex Joneses and the David Icks of the world, So I'm doing my part here. So if we are to believe that there is such a group, and it seems to be, even if you're having difficulty believing this, think of it this way. What else would explain why the world is so fucked up, and what else also, more importantly, would explain why all these things like the Epstein cover-up and so on, why do they keep happening again and again and again, year after year, decade after decade? You keep seeing it. So it's very apparent. It's gotten to the point where it's like even the dumbest, most uninformed person would sit back and say, okay, look, I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know if this guy on YouTube now is fully 100% right, but there's something along those lines going on for sure. You know, I mean, it might not be a thousands of years old conspiracy or whatever, and it might, you know, they might not necessarily be, you know, into human sacrifice, or, you know, they're not reptilians or anything like that, but at the very least, it's an elite club of ultra rich that do things to us that are not good for us, that are not good for the masses. They work against the best interests of the masses, that's a better way of putting it, in order to further and to maintain their own power and control. I mean, you can just simply see it like that, okay? I go deeper. I think it's way deeper than that, but I think most people would accept the surface explanation of, you know, there's an elite club of ultra-rich people that's been in power for many generations, and they simply have developed certain methods that guarantee their power, that would guarantee them, like, guarantee that people will not revolt against them, that will guarantee that most people will be in a poverty mindset, poverty consciousness, so that they can eliminate as much as possible the instance or, you know, scenarios of upstarts rising up out of nowhere and becoming the new class of elites, of billionaires. Okay, of course, this always does happen because there are always strong people who do end up becoming the new leaders, the new kings, so to speak. But there are always systems in place to keep the average person down as much as possible, so that they maintain this pyramidal control. Not that I'm against pyramidal. I mean, it's the competence hierarchy. I mean, that's how reality is structured. You can't. I mean, communism is the worst thing ever. You can't flatten everything. But there is a section, there's a component of those that are at the top of the pyramid who are evil. Not all of them, but there's a small percentage of that top 1%, let's say, who really are engaging in these things, you know, who are part of this cabal, let's call it, okay? So accepting that this is real, even on the most mundane level of just being a bunch of rich dudes that just don't want us to have power, they would do stuff like this. Why wouldn't they? Okay, because they're ruthless people. Okay, so they do this. So that will be the problem aspect of it. Like I said before, when I was likening it to a board game where they're just playing around with the planet as if we're pawns, they think 10, 20, 30 years ahead, 50 years ahead. Okay, they're not like, what are we going to do in the next quarter? Okay. So they do this, they unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and a decade later, roughly, they expect the reaction. The reaction from the majority of sane people would be forced to defend themselves against the destroyers of civilization. As we said here, where is it? Here. The destroyers of civilization. Okay. So, and this is happening. This is exactly what's happening. Like I said before, like even the most ignorant naysayer can't deny that this is exactly what's happening now. Like everyone is turning against this wokeism thing. What's his name? Jimmy Kimmel was cancelled the other day, or today, whenever it was, but it's been in the past 24 hours, okay, for saying making a horrendous comment on his show about Charlie Kirk. He was saying, he said something like that the shooter was actually MAGA, and the right and the Republicans are trying to frame it that he was a leftist. I haven't watched the clip, but apparently the way he said it as well was very disrespectful and so on. So he got fired. Okay, and this is happening all over the world, particularly in America, but it's going to start happening everywhere. Now, another reaction would be widespread disillusionment with Christianity. I'm not sure how the Charlie Kirk mass trauma ritual, mass MK Ultra ritual would fit in with that. But because there's always there's many levels to the games that these people play, there would be other ways that they could cause this potentially. But because it seems the Kirk thing is actually bringing in more people to Christianity now. But I had to put that in because it fits in with the wider so-called plan that Albert Pike laid out in his letter to Mazzini. So I'm just explaining. I just wrote what Pike said, and I'm detailing it. I'm analysing it. That's all. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying that I want it to happen, and I don't think it will actually, because God gave us the internet. The internet was like Gandalf in the second Lord of the Rings. I'm talking about the movies, not the books. I don't know what the order was in the books, but in the second movie, where Gandalf appeared, was it in the Battle of Pelennor Fields? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where he appeared like 5 seconds before everything went to hell, and he saved the day. So the internet was something like that. Okay, it appeared in the nick of time to just help us have access to information and eventually wake up, and things like Elon Musk buying Twitter in the past few years has been a massive help for people learning the actual truth of what the Cabal does to us. Okay, so, because they keep hiding it in the fake news, all right? Okay, so their goal by unleashing this wokeism crap onto the world was to ultimately get a reaction, which will be this, okay? Let's ignore the second bullet point here for the moment, but mainly with this, okay? The majority of sane people will be forced to defend themselves against these destroyers of civilization. And you can see it, it's not only the firing of Jimmy, Jimmy Kimmel. It's also the fact that they're coming out, people like the Vice President Vance is coming out and straight out, just flat out saying these are domestic terrorists. Pretty much before you know it, and maybe they've done it already in so many words, but before you know it, they're going to come out, the White House is going to come out and officially say that, all the radical left are domestic terrorists and they will be treated as such. Okay, all radical left aligned organizations and individuals. All right, so if you enjoy the content of this channel, then there's a good chance you'll also like my fantasy book, Lifting the Curse Volume 1, Guardian of the Magic. Set in the modern day, it's full of action, fantasy, and page-turning conspiracy thriller. It even has numerous references to real-life geopolitical events and conspiracy theories, including a somewhat prophetic mention of the current 2025 Iran-Israel conflict. This has got a very strong Order 66 feel to it, the Order 66 thing from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the third prequel. It was a brilliant film, by the way. I never understood why people hated the prequel. I mean, Episode 1 was boring. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. But the rest of the other two are amazing, especially Revenge of the Sith. So fuck the haters. That movie was... The Order 66 showed us everything. So this could be dangerous because I don't know what's going to come out of it in the end. But anyway, let's continue. I'm trying to not inject my own opinions with this. I'm just analyzing what Albert Pike apparently was thinking and planning, okay? I mean, he was the Grand Master of whatever it was, Sovereign Grand Commander of the Southern Jurisdiction, so if anyone knew the Illuminati plan, it would be him. So, and he's saying, so the solution to the problem that they caused by unleashing the wokies, and then the reaction of the majority of sane people around the world, around the West, would of course be to want to destroy these people. So then the solution, the Cabal presents a solution which is already pre-planned. Like they've already thought, I mean, before even presenting the problem to us, they have already thought of the solution because they work. See, what they do is, this is like reverse engineering the thing. Hear me out. What they do is they want to accomplish something, right? Which is to say, not knowing where to turn, the masses will receive the true light through the universal doctrine of Lucifer, finally brought out into public view. So they want to create this thing where they eventually bring out the true Luciferian doctrine, the true Luciferian spirituality. So they start from there. They're like, we want to do this. How are we going to do this? We need to use order out of chaos, problem, reaction, solution, in order to get here. So they reverse engineer it. They go to the reaction. People will react to something in order to give them, to demand from the authorities for them to give them the solution. So then they try to figure out a problem, what the best problem would be. What the best problem would be to drive people to a particular reaction, which would then get the government, the government will come in and offer a solution to this reaction. So it's a brilliant way. I mean, my hat's off to them. Like, it really is a brilliant way of managing the planet, right? But there's always black and white in this life. I don't always want to say, something's 100% evil or 100% good. There's no such thing as 100% good. Even Jesus went into the money changers and kung fu'd them. Like he literally went in and beat them up, like you see, like in Chuck Norris films, like for real. I don't want to make light of it. I'm not making fun of it, like likening it to Chuck Norris, but like he really, that's what he did. Went in and beat their ass, like it was like a pub fight, okay, like a bar fight. So even someone like Jesus had anger management issues, or more like righteous anger when it was called for. All right, so there's no 100% good or bad. So I'm not going to call this technique 100% evil, but it's very manipulative, and it can border on evil depending on how bad the problem is. Okay, so in the case of 9/11, like the September 11 attacks in 2001, the Twin Towers, it was evil because they blew up the towers. 3,000 people roughly were killed. I don't know the exact number, but what was it, 2,900 something? It was about 3,000 people. And then the reaction was, let's fight terrorism, and the solution was all the sweeping, the reforms, the rights that we lost forever after that. Because not only Americans, I mean, I'm Greek-Australian on paper, on my passports. I wish I was Greek-American, but whatever. Life's not perfect. But all airports across the world instituted measures that did not exist before this, security measures. So we all around the world, freedoms were reduced after that, and we never got them back. So in this case, the problem was bring out the woke people, unleash them to the world. Like I said, this cabal thinks it's doing it for our own good because it wants to speed up. Basically, they believe that they're speeding up evolution. All right. So they think, well, you're evolving faster than you would have had we just left it to go organically on its own. So they're prodding it along. So they're, it's like if you want to cook an egg, you can just put it out. If it's a really sunny day, you can just put it out in the sun. Just put it on your car. It might happen, but it's not going to come out as good as it would have had you probably cooked it on yourself in your kitchen on a skillet, right? So they believe, like I keep saying, they believe that they are helping us evolve faster, okay, by doing it like that. So, each side is going to justify their actions, right? So they think they're doing it for the good. So on the solution front, I would have put something like, to me, the Charlie Kirk thing in particular would be more used for something like I said in the other video, like that Charlie Kirk is the new 9/11. First, it's going to attack the radical left, but this is going to be done in a way where it takes away freedoms from everybody, okay? And eventually you can use it, you can lump in the right as well, the anti-Israel elements of the right. You can lump them in together with the pro-Hamas leftists and also eliminate / cancel / attack those people as well. So that's where we get dangerous. But specifically analyzing, the letter to Mazzini in this video, I'm not going to go there specifically, like I mentioned it in the other video about Charlie Kirk being the new 9/11. But what Pike wrote there, that's actually the solution that he's thinking of offering in the problem reaction solution setup. The solution would be, not knowing where to turn, the masses will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. Okay, so like I said before in the video, keep a lookout for signs of this, and you'll remember this video. You'll say, oh shit, I saw that in that video once that said, be on the lookout for the cabal bringing out more, talking more and more about the fact that, we should have one religion because all religions are based on the same underlying concepts anyway, which is true. But what I don't like is the cabal coming out and telling us this, which means, therefore, that they're gonna try to hijack that and create take this Gnostic, non-religious, free expression of spirituality where you don't need any priests or imams or anything or rabbis, and you just have a one-on-one Gnostic connection with the divine. Okay, they're going to take that concept, which is a beautiful idea, and they're going to magically somehow turn it into an organized religion structure, which it shouldn't be, because that thing is actually, technically, it's anti-religion, okay? It's the religion of but they're going to make it into like a religion of anti-religion, okay? It's going to be the religion that's against organized religion, but still it's going to be a religion, okay? So that's what I don't like. The thing, because if it's supposed to be, we don't need priests, we don't need any middlemen to communicate with God directly, with the divine within us, then why do you need to institutionalize that structure, which is if you do that, you would technically be creating a religion. That's not a religion. That's not a religion, but it is, because it will have a structure. It will be incorporated. Have a name or something. I don't know if it would necessarily have buildings, places of worship, but it will have something. So this is what I see happening with this. We've moved away from the Charlie Kirk thing now, like I said, because this video is analysing just in general what the order out of chaos / problem reaction solution method is. And as per Pike, this would happen. And bullet point 2 here, Christianity and atheism will both be destroyed and replaced by the true Luciferian religion. Like I said, they will present it as being something that's the pure thing, the pure doctrine, the pure spirituality. That's basically been the template, if you will, that all the great religions of the world have been based on. It's like the secret doctrine of Helena Blavatsky fame, okay? Which is a true thing, because if you really do look at all the religions, you'll find point for point similarities in all of them, All the major religions have got like the equivalent of karma, the equivalent of sin, the equivalent of, doing good works, the equivalent of, respecting the divine and not wishing to elevate yourself above the divine, which is like a Luciferian hubris thing. They all have the same. The normie, the blue-pilled Christians will protest, will complain about that, but I'm here to say the truth. I don't. So it's true, but the cabal will hijack it and try to turn it into an organized, trying to turn something which should be a personal one-on-one thing with God. Magically, these people are again gonna somehow they're going to manage to even make an organized religious structure out of that thing, which should be impossible to do, but they're going to try to do it. So this is what you've got to look out for. And finally, last but not least, okay, the end game, all right, to all this. All right, so the Illuminati or the Cabal clearly have a centuries-old long-range plan. I have it in capital P there because it's the plan, the grand plan, to unite the entire world in a so-called Brotherhood of Man, which is 100% a Masonic concept, in a sort of benevolent dictatorship that was partially realized in the post-World War II rules-based international order. That's very well known. I mean, there's even a Wikipedia entry on that. The rules-based international order it's a known thing. It's not a secret. But it fell short of the true scope of the Cabal's long-sought New World Order. As many may know, George Herbert Walker Bush himself, Father Bush, announced the New World Order in his infamous address to Congress. Incredibly, it was done on September 11, 1990. Yes, for those who didn't know that, look it up. It's very easy to find, like with 2-second search in Google or whatever, you can find that. So, yes, incredibly, he made that speech, that infamous speech that a lot of people know about, on September 11, 1990. So there's something, again, I will say there's something about that date that these people, whoever they are, this organization, or this, group of interlocking organizations that, they all end up in the top. They're all absorbed by one all-powerful, overseeing, all-encompassing organization that controls all of them, whose name we don't know, whose members the names of the members, we've never heard of them or anything, who knows? It could be aliens, it could be whatever, it could be something, but it's just, there's something going on. There's too many coincidences. Why would this guy make that speech, of all things, to say? He says that. He makes the address to Congress, on that date. All right? And then his son, was 21 years later was 11 years later, he was presiding over and there you go, 11. So there's like on September 11th, he made that speech. And then 11 years later, on September 11 again, his son, W, was presiding over the next 9/11 shock, which was the Twin Towers attack. And now, 24 years after that, we have the Charlie Kirk assassination. That happened September 10th, but it's good enough. I mean, it's within the window of that energetic window, like I said before. All right, so for some reason, it just, there's something about that number, that date. That, like I said, some people think they have the answer, but trust me, I've seen all the stuff, and it's never been explained satisfactorily to me. It's my opinion, but I really haven't seen a single person on earth truly explaining what the real significance, what the true significance is of that date. Okay. So anyway, in closing, a rules-based order may seem good on paper, but it's little more than a soft dictatorship which is cleverly designed to give people the impression that they're free, so that they never get the urge to rebel, so that we don't rebel. Okay, it's like, oh yeah, we live in America, we live in a democracy, we live this and that, we don't need to rebel. Meanwhile, you really don't have as many rights as you think you do, and you're not really as free as you think you are, all right? An integral part of this matrix is subtle mind control, of course. I mean, that's the underlying thing. The mind control is what keeps it all together. It's the glue that keeps all this system together, right? Subtle mind control, that's imperceptible to the majority. It's done through mass media, mostly education, and so on. It keeps people weak, stupid, and docile. Not everyone, okay, but in general, like, it keeps them more weak, more stupid, and more docile than they would have been minus the brainwashing, okay? It is subtle. I don't really want to call it brainwashing. It's more conditioning, mind control. It's so subtle. It's almost imperceptible. You have to be very smart. Your pattern recognition skills need to be at the level of a detective, to realize that on your own, like from when you're a teenager or something, start just on your own, just randomly realizing that something's wrong, even if nobody's told you about it, even if you've never read anything about it or seen a video about it. You're like, wait, like Neo in the Matrix films, like, you just know something's wrong. People like that, they're not everybody just is born that way, to just on their own realize something's wrong. Okay? But the majority of people will just buy it. They'll be like, okay, that's what I was told in school, that's what history told me, this and that, and they just repeat it. They have really no ideas of their own or true critical thinking. Okay, they have surface level critical thinking, but when the criticism conflicts with the things, the historical or scientific facts, so-called facts that they've been told by authority figures, that's when they get the blue screen of death, okay? It stops there. They can't go any further. It's like, oh, but in school I was taught this, or history taught me this, or religion said this, or the man on TV said so-and-so. Yeah, because because let's use the Pareto principle. I mean, it's not an exact breakdown, but roughly like an 80-20. 80% of people, they're in that mindset. They need to be led by authorities, all right? So it's the 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle even applies to this. I mean, it might be 85-15, whatever it is, but it's something like that. So the vast majority of people are very susceptible to this mind control, and especially because it's so ingeniously done and it's so subtle, it's even harder in the past 100 years roughly to see it, to realize that you're being conditioned from birth constantly. That's why it's even harder, and most people just won't, they don't understand. Like, it's amazing. I was watching Piers Morgan the other day, and I don't remember who he was interviewing, but he was saying something like, well, I remember I admitted to you once, I openly admitted that during the COVID thing, I was completely blind to the fact, he was basically saying that during COVID, he 100% bought the narrative that they were telling him on the TV. And I'm thinking, you're in your 50s, or however old he was then. I'm assuming he was 50s. I'm like, this guy, all his life, I mean, he's not a dumb person. He's educated and so on. He's got a successful career in journalism. So, like he was the president of a chess club or something in high school or whatever. So, you can't be a dummy and be really good at chess. So he has IQ-wise, somebody like that would, technically would say, okay, IQ-wise, okay, he's a smart person. And even people like that, they don't understand. Like, it took him, 50 years, 55 years to fucking wake up and understand that, there's something going on behind the scenes, behind the curtain, and you can't always trust in the government. So there's so many people that although they might have a high IQ on paper and might be academically educated, they're not smart. I wouldn't consider them holistically intelligent, because if you don't understand the stuff that I'm saying here, if you don't understand it innately on your own, you're one of the dumb people. You're one of the 80%ers on that Pareto breakdown that I did before, 80-20 or whatever it is. I would say it's 95-5. Okay. You're one of the bottom 95%ers if you were not innately aware that there's something wrong in the world, like Neo was depicted in the Matrix film. But because the 95%ers are designed to just buy this stuff, this is how they control vast numbers of the population, because you can't do it by having stormtroopers stationed at every corner, because it just becomes unsustainable. Like Rome tried to sustain the empire through force, but it didn't work in the end, and it collapsed. Okay, so because then they eventually thought, okay, we're going to resort to using mercenaries, because it was just an unsustainable model to have like Roman soldiers policing everyone, keeping everyone in line through fear and violence. So they were using mercenaries, okay, and they were giving people citizenship if they pledged their allegiance to Rome and joined the Roman military and stuff. But that's unsustainable in the end, So fast forward 1900 years, you have, in the early 20th century, mind control technologies advanced to a level that they had never been before that in human history, that we know of. And especially lately, it's become so sophisticated where it's just at the press of a button, you can brainwash the 95%ers. I mean, look at the COVID thing. I still can't believe it today. Still to this day, I'm reeling. I'm like, I still can. I sometimes I think, did we really live through that? Did that really happen? I couldn't believe that we lived through that situation on the planet. Like, there were so many people that just followed whatever they were telling them. Like, there were so many people just did not know these things that I'm saying here, because they were like, these things are like second nature to me ever since I was like late teens, early 20s. I'm like, guys, why can't you see the obvious? Just because it was obvious to me and others doesn't mean that the 95%ers saw it as obvious. So, and this is never going to change. That 95%, 5% split, that's never going to change. Throughout all generations, there's always going to be the top 5% who are natural leaders / awake / practically immune to mind control, and the rest of the bottom 95% of the pyramid are going to be susceptible to mind control to varying degrees. You know, the lower you get on the pyramid, the more they would be susceptible to brainwashing. Where when you get like the bottom 20%, roughly 20-25%, whatever, these people are completely brainwashable, like to the point where you can just, you know, sell them beachfront property in the desert. So, like, unbelievably easy. And if you control the education as well, the education system, which has been thoroughly taken over in places like America, which is very sad. Okay, because before that, the Americans, you know, an amazing country founded on rugged individualism and being self-taught, you know, people being homeschooled and so on. Sorry about the noise. I hope you guys didn't hear that. Greece, one of the bad things of Greece, noise pollution. All right, so yeah, you put all that stuff together, and it's very easy to perpetrate something like that, the COVID psyop. Okay, I still can't believe that it happened. That people were so fucking dumb and brainwashed, and you know, there was such sheeple. But there you go, it happened, and it will continue to. Okay, this stuff will keep happening because, like I said, that 95%/5% split, it's never going to change. You can't genetically engineer it out of us. You can't socially construct it out of us. You can't, you know, put people in camps and de-sheeple them. Once a sheeple, always a sheeple. It's like their brain. It's almost like a different species. Probably in the future there will be science there'll be some machine that will be able to actually show this, like to show that there's something energetically or in their brains or in their DNA, something different, fundamentally different, that makes them so opposed to the top 5%ers, the awake people, / the leaders of men, whatever you want to call it. You know, and the more that someone is a leader, a natural leader, the less likely they are to be brainwashable and led by others. Okay. Yeah. So there's something about, like, it's almost like a different species. Okay. It's like a subspecies, like a split between the top 5%ers and the bottom 95%. We are so very different. Okay. So that dichotomy is always going to exist. It's just a matter of the top 5%ers who are awake to be able to find effective ways with which to counteract the mind control attempts that the evil people at the top of the pyramid do. Okay, which is the Cabal. Okay, there's no way to wake up everybody and make everybody, you know, think and behave like Alex Jones and so on. The best you can do is to neutralize, to the best of your ability, the various psyops that the bad people at the top of the pyramid perpetuate and use against the bottom 95%. Okay. So yeah, we're at this point here, and as a final analysis, as per Pike's letter, a third and final war is needed in order to bring the long-awaited one-world government. All right? That's why in his letter to Mazzini, basically, the basic gist is outlining how the 3 world wars will happen, right? And that's... Is it raining? And that's why there's been a persistent push for World War III in recent years, okay? Especially since the thing happened with Russia and Ukraine. I can't believe that's like more than 3 years, isn't it? Like, it happened early 2022. And they do it either through agitating the Israel-Iran or the Russia-West conflict / rivalries. All right? But ultimately, these people will fail. I believe they will fail. Okay? Ending it on a positive note, they will fail. Because, like I said, we can't... There's always going to be a competence pyramid. Okay? And in this case, I'm talking about, in the awakeness levels. Okay, there's always going to be a top 5% who are naturally just red-pilled, or like naturally very prone to being red-pilled. They're like red pill material since the day they're born. It's just in us, in our DNA, something about it, right? And the rest of the 95%, like I said before, there's like differing levels of being mind control, different levels of susceptibility to mind control. I paused there to get like the right term. Yeah, varying degrees of susceptibility to mind control and brainwashing. Yeah, and the less prone you are to being brainwashed and controlled, the more mind controlled, the more likely that you are going to resist this BS and uncover how this system works and everything, and eventually, make it your life's mission to go out and teach people about it, and whether through YouTube or books or speaking tours or whatever people do, right? So yes, this basically covers the basics of how problem, reaction, solution works, aka order out of chaos, the famous Freemasonic motto, and how this pertains to that section of Pike's letter to Mazzini, and how I hope it gave you a good idea, a good understanding of how this problem, I keep saying it like a Chinese person, problem, reaction, solution, how it could be applied in general. And you could apply it to your own life as well, like if you want. Try not to be sinister with it, but if you want to create something, like think of the solution, think of the end result, and reverse engineer it. You're like, okay, I want to get a particular result, so work backwards to the reaction, and then what would be the best thing that could get that particular reaction, and that would be the problem. So to get to the best problem could be if you want to get jacked, to speak like in everyday, in the language of everyday man. If you want to become jacked as soon as possible, that will be the. All right. So let me go to the proper slide. All right. So you want to become jacked, right, as soon as possible. That's the solution. That's what you want. Reverse engineer it. The reaction that will get you there would be maximum damage to the muscles, minus actually injuring yourself and unaliving yourself from too much stress on the muscles. But do it to the degree, just before expiring, just before death. Get to the point where it's like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Problem. What would be the problem, quote unquote? It's not a problem to go and do compound lifts, but, using this framework, it would be the problem that would create the reaction of the body being beaten down by massive amounts of exercise. So, what you do is a whole lot of exercise, like pick the most difficult exercises possible, and do them as much as possible, and just go as hard as possible in order to create this reaction in the body, and then that will eventually bring that, which is to say, transformation of your body from being skinny fat or whatever you want to do. Like in my case, I've done it. I wanted to get my weight. I wanted to bulk up, basically, I had a particular goal of doing so, and I just went extremely hard in the past few months. I'm sort of having a break now because I tired myself out, but I've succeeded to a degree, because I was below 80 kilograms before, and after doing this massive bulking thing recently, I have stabilized, I've normalized my weight to about 82 kilos, 82 or 83 kilos. Even when I don't eat much for a few days, it's still going to more or less stay at that level. So what I've done is I've permanently changed my base weight. Okay, I wanted it to be 80-ish kilos, and I did it, but without creating a full-on problem, which was like subjecting myself to massive amounts of, doing compound lifts and so on, to the point of absolute exhaustion, up to the 99th percent point of completely destroying my nervous system and everything. And the reaction was, of course, the body's going to grow. Okay, it's either going to die or grow. Okay, order out of chaos. So you create the chaos, and then a new order is born out of that, and it's superior to the previous. So you build a body that's better, bigger and better and stronger than what it was 3 months before that. Okay, so that's a very pedestrian example, but because I've lived it, because I do go to the gym, it was a perfect example for me to use to describe this. And because I know a lot of people work out as well, they would appreciate that example. But you can use it with everything. Like, let's say you want to, I don't know, take people's guns away. It's like, all right, we want to take people's guns away. You reverse engineer it. Like, how do I do that? All right, so for people to actually come and cry to us and say, please, please, please put in the red flag laws and take the guns away, you would want a sufficient enough reaction that would get people to say, please, please, take the guns away. We give you our guns. Here, come and take them. So then you dream up the perfect problem that would get people to do that. So they always work. They work backwards. They reverse engineer it. They're thinking, what do we want? Okay, that particular thing, whatever it may be, gun control, or digital ID or whatever. All right. So we need to manufacture something that will get a sufficient reaction from the public that will demand the thing that we want, the goal that we want to accomplish. So they work backwards, and they think, we want them to react like, oh, guns are dangerous, blah, 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 we're not safe. Okay, so then they go backwards again, one step up again to the problem. They're like, what would be, traumatic enough to actually get the majority of people to have such a reaction? And then they throw things out. It's almost like running a business in a crude way, in a callous way. You could think of it as like running a corporation, but the corporation is Earth, or it's like an entire country. That's how these people do it. It's like I was saying before, like the example of they have the map of the planet, and it's like a chessboard to them, and they have little pawns on it, and they move them around. They're like, oh, we're going to do this now. We have the we want to do so and so. So we're going to create wokeism through our Illuminati agents in the universities and so on. So then about 10 years later, people are going to react so-and-so, which will eventually bring us to the solution that we already wanted to begin with. But you're not going to know that. You, the person who's watching, you're not going to be told that. See, they do it the other way around. They start with a problem first in order to get a reaction out of you, which will lead to the thing that they always wanted to do in the first place. Okay? But they're not going to tell you that that's why they're doing it. Secretly, they want this. And they reverse engineer it and work backwards in order to get you there. So if you understand the mechanics of this thing, your head gets blown wide open, and you have this awakening suddenly. And it's like, shit, all these things are going to start making sense to you, like things that happen. Because if you look at the patterns, you're like, oh, this happened. And it happened on that particular date, especially the major traumatic problems that they cause that are supposed to get long-range solutions that are like major pillars of their grand plan, major planks of their plan. as per the communist planks. That was why I referenced that. A lot of them happen. The key problems that create the major solutions, as in parts of the agenda that they want to solidify, to bring into fruition, they do it on particular dates. Okay, like that's why 9/11 is so important, right? So 9/11, where was it? There we go. 9/11. George H.W. Bush announced the New World Order on September 11th, 1990. 11 years after that, on the same date, his son was the reigning president when the September 11 attacks happened, which greatly accelerated okay, problem, bringing down the towers. Reaction, people saying, "Oh my God, get the terrorists." Solution, people losing a bunch of rights. All right. So, but they always wanted this. They see their plan is basically to shred the U.S. Constitution to bits, if possible, to completely eliminate it. Especially the Second Amendment. Because the Second Amendment is there to protect the First. Without the Second, the First will, it will disappear. Whether it happens in 6 months or 6 years, it's going to go if there's no Second Amendment there. If people have no guns, the right to bear arms in America, there will be no free speech in America. Like I said, whether it takes 5 minutes or 5 years, freedom of speech will disappear if they haven't got the right to bear their arms, all right? And the cabal doesn't like America. People seem to think, oh no, America is the cabal. No. The cabal has usurped America. America was the most anti-cabal nation in human history, in known history, when it was founded. And until very recently, until Kennedy was killed, basically, it was very strong. It was the cabal's worst nightmare, America and the Constitution, okay? So they've been trying for centuries to stop it, okay, to bring it down from within, and this is how they do it. I hope this helped. I hope this woke people up. I know a lot of people already know the problem, reaction, solution from David Icke's work and others like him, but I'm just giving it my own spin, in my own words, giving some extra insight, because everyone sees things from their own unique angle, and I hope it's it's going to speak to some people that needed to hear this, And if you found this enlightening and helpful in any way, share it around, of course. Share it, send it to people who you think are going to like this and benefit. Subscribe, like, comment. Of course, I like the comments. I don't always reply, but please comment and tell me your insights or correct me anyway if you think I was wrong, but respectfully. So that's it for today, and I will see you soon.